Hello, hello. All right, it is time to do our Empress card comparison video. So if you haven't seen one of these that I've done before, hopefully this time will be even more streamlined and I'll be even better at it, but who knows? It's honestly always kind of chaos. But you know, I'm feeling pretty prepared today. I've actually done my nails instead of leaving them scraggly for you to have to stare at the whole time. The candle is lit. The tea is hot and caffeinated because we're going to need that. It's actually too hot to drink right now, so hopefully it'll cool down and come in clutch at around the 7th inning stretch. You know what I mean? Let's get some sports metaphors going there. Some initial disclaimers. Sorry about the creaking of this chair. I really like how it looks, so I should probably get one that doesn't creak, but I like it. All right, some disclaimers. I am not a teacher or an expert or someone who's been doing this for a very long time. I just have a lot of decks, and this is something I always thought would be fun to do, so I like doing it. I pull out the same or like equivalent card from each of the decks that I have, and I share them with you. I've kind of looked at them to group them so that I can go through them in order from like most normal standard to the most out there. But other than that, I haven't really studied them ahead of time. Do you need this many decks? No. No one needs this many decks. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to buy a bunch or spend more money than they need to. Do I need this many? Also, no. I could probably get by with around like 6 decks. That would probably be enough. But I enjoy these, and maybe seeing these cards will give you the benefit without having to spend your own money. So those are the standard disclaimers. I think I will start off with just looking at the general meaning of the card, and I like to reference this book here. It's by Tina Gong. I don't know, it's a really handy basic. It's how I've been starting off, and ignore my scribbles on it. Let's see if we can get a better look at it. So for the Empress, we've got creativity, abundance. I've added luxury and sensuality in there as well. Nature, fertility, feminine energy. Creative flow is a term that I see associated with this card a lot. And when the card is reversed, you're in a time of stagnation. Maybe there's a blockage, or think of it as like writer's block for any sort of creative activity that you might be involved in. Scarcity instead of abundance. And then, instead of being a healthy version of nurturing, it might suggest either like codependence, a smothering sort of affection, or even neglect, not really caring at all. Let's see. And I like this book. I think it's handy because it gives you some general interpretations. It's divine feminine energy that's really tied to the creative processes. She's tied to the earthly realm. That's something that I saw referenced in a couple of my other books that I looked through as well. In it, a common comparison was the High Priestess being about the mental, the esoteric, the spiritual, the cosmic mystery aspect of things, whereas the Empress is more directly connected to the physical world and what is actually in existence in your body or in the environment or in the world. And it is also tied to motherhood as another form of very, very literal creation, maternal or nurturing instincts, and caring. So let's see. And this has some things that you can look at for journaling purposes, and I'm not fully certain about it, but it feels like this is a card that's very much about mindset. It wants you to be in a creative space and have that good creative flow going, maybe when you're engaged in more activity like other cards suggest, but I don't know that this is necessarily forcing you to take any particular actions, because it seems more about getting in the right headspace for those actions to let the creation happen, essentially, right? So, it says, if you want to embody the Empress, maybe take pleasure in your senses, connect with your body and how you move through your environment. You can start a creative project, really be thinking it over and letting those thoughts flow, or going into nature to connect with the world around you. I do think it's a very much a card of the present. Creation happens now, not so much, worrying about the future or harping on the past. I think this is a card that really asks you to be very present, right? Let's see if any of my other notey notes will be relevant. We'll talk about some of the symbols as we start looking at the cards, of course. This is part of the major arcana. It's after the High Priestess and right before the Emperor. And it's associated with, I believe, the earth element and Venus, as we'll talk about more when we talk about the symbols themselves, right? Okay. And I am also probably going to repeatedly hear creaking, but I am also going to angle the camera just up so that you can get a more direct view, and I can use these for chapter headers as well. So if you're not super interested in listening to my insights, which, hey, if you've been reading for a while, I could fully understand that you might already have a much better sense of the cards and want to study them on your own. So absolutely feel free to just forward to each chapter heading, maybe look at them as a group so you can compare them to one another, or to do your own analysis as you go through with your experiences and your knowledge of various systems and the like. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but these are mostly RWS clones. That's what I prefer. I'm still very much a beginner, even though I've been doing this for a while. So let's see if this tea is cooled off enough. Oh, it is. All right, good. Let's get that caffeine going. Oh, and you know what? Before I do, I did have a couple of additional quotes from my other reference books. So here we've got The Magic of Tarot. It says, "She is your actions, your imprint, your work. The ultimate creative act is the life you live. The Empress is the outer expression of our inner self." So, I've seen that multiple times where it is talking about a manifestation, an outer expression, creation. So not necessarily about inner mysteries like the High Priestess is. And then another bit I liked is from Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, which is a classic, I think. And here we have, "Many people see religion as an alternative to the natural world, which they view as somehow impure or dirty. Though our cultural tradition fosters this duality, it is really an illusion, and the person who approaches spirituality with this motivation to escape will likely never achieve a very developed understanding. The body and the natural world are realities that must be integrated rather than denied." I really liked that, and I think I spent a little time thinking about that and the ways in which, you might like thinking about the high mysteries and the philosophy and really spending time in the High Priestess energy, but at some point, you live in a physical world, you live in a physical body, and those sensual experiences, your actual senses, your environment, the way that you interact with it is something that has to be taken into account and considered. It's more about combining the High Priestess and the Empress energy to achieve, a more well-rounded approach, right? And not ignoring one for the other. And then the last little bit, this is just short. It's from Tarot 101 by Kim Huggins. And it said, "If any card represents mankind's ability and urge to create beyond need and imagine beyond necessity. It's the Empress. And I really liked that because it did have me stopping to think about how this isn't a card about subsistence. This isn't a card about eking out just the bare minimum. This isn't a card about, you know, doing just what you need to get by, right? This is a card of abundance, of overflow, of, you know, a rushing stream that keeps moving and has high volume. It's not about a trickle, right? And so I just liked that little quote because I thought it was so small, but it encapsulates a lot of information that I found very interesting. All right, so let's finally get to. All right, oops. Yeah, just let me knock that over. All right, so here we've got the standard Rider-Waite Smith. It's a little larger than usual because I have the rounded version. I just like, it does give you more space. I like that it's so large. You can see all the bits of the symbols. And so the standard image reflects a mature woman reclining on like cushions, luxurious fabrics. It looks like maybe a bench or like a chaise lounge type dealio, but she is outdoors. And so I think that, you know, she's surrounded by very literal creation in the sense of like a noun, you know, nature and water. We've got wheat down here. So I think she's in charge of the wild and the tamed, if that makes sense. You know, wheat is also related to like life-sustaining force. It's a staple in a lot of cultures, and you know, you're not going to get very far if you don't have some sort of like grain crop. So I think that's where the abundance comes in, things like that. She also just looks like elegant and regal. She's got this scepter here, a laurel wreath, which are generally associated with victory, and a crown. So, you know, she definitely seems to be associated with like royalty, and the universe as well, with that crown there. It's got 12 stars on it. I think generally seems to be associated with the 12 signs of the zodiac. And then again with this Venus symbol down here. So now we've got like multiple symbols of, you know, the universe and goddess. So, you know, she's not just an average woman, she's a royal one, an important one, brings in some goddess energy as well. I know this is a pomegranate because that's what all the reference books say. I'm glad other people have done the work of figuring that out because I don't know, what would I say that is? Ladybugs? I really would not know some things unless I were told. And I do think, you know, having these, the cushions and the reclining, I do think that's a sign of like luxury. Again, abundance, like this person is not struggling or just getting by. They are luxuriating and enjoying their circumstances. Several resources referred to the reclining as a symbol of, you know, that's how you get into the creative flow. It's not a matter of forcing it or pushing yourself into that state. It's, you know, you're letting it happen. You know, maybe you're a conduit, or a conduit for it. It flows through you. You don't have to, you know, push that creativity so hard. Some images reference a pregnant woman. It's hard to tell with the looseness of the clothing in this one. And you've also got looks like a stream coming down and creating a small waterfall there. I think, again, that's a lot of people relate that to creative flow, you know, like the water is flowing down. And it does make me think of source as well. You know, the spring of like a source of water, a source of creativity springing from the earth and then coming down the mountain below. Oh, and the pomegranates, I don't remember if I mentioned, but those are generally a symbol of fertility. And this is a heart-shaped, apparently it's a heart-shaped shield, which is reminiscent of the Marseille style. I'm not that familiar with Marseille, but, you know, a heart-shaped shield does indicate protection, a strong heart, that sort of thing. Yeah, so there is the standard. The only other version I have of the standard imagery is the Tarot Vintage, and the coloration is quite different on that, but you can see the elements are still the same. This is the Everyday Tarot. It's just a little mini pocket version, and it's reduced the imagery to some of those symbols we talked about before. We've got flowers for, you know, the product of creation. There's actually a pregnancy bump here, it looks like. So we've got that motherhood, birth connotation there. We've got a star crown and the symbol of Venus, and a pomegranate here for fertility. Modern Witch Tarot generally also has the same arrangement. We've got a bit of a different landscape, but we still have the water coming down from the back. Someone very elegantly and beautifully dressed, reclining, and not straining at all for all of this creation around her. And we've got that heart-shaped shield with the Venus symbol. She's also wearing a crown, very regal. Same sort of imagery here. These might be lemons, or it's just a pattern. I am not sure about that, but I would read it very similarly. Let's see here. This is the Robin Wood. I always have to think, or I'm going to say Robin Hood. I just picked this up the other day, so I haven't worked with it too much, but it looks like the imagery is, again, very similar. We've got a mature woman. This time she's clearly pregnant, so we definitely have that connection to birth and creation in that way. And she's also working a spinning wheel, turning fibers into threads, so she's very literally creating in this image here. And she's got like maybe like a basket or a cornucopia type thing over here with all sorts of fruits and vegetables and flowers. And she's also outdoors, out in creation. And we've got that heart-shaped symbol up here as well with Venus again. So they're still incorporating a lot of that same imagery. This one here is from the Cozy Witch Tarot. And this one, they are using, it looks more like roses instead of pomegranates. I've seen roses associated with Empress before. I think maybe that's when they're calling in kind of the sensuality or like the love aspect of femininity. And she's also, I think she might be breastfeeding there, so nurturing, and she's got the baby, so she's got that motherhood tie-in. And, she looks comfortable, but she is wearing a really beautiful dress, and she's taken the time to match her mask to it. I didn't look at the guidebook for this one yet, as I haven't worked with this deck much, but maybe the baby has, like, immunity, or, maybe she does, and, kids are always picking up germs and bringing them home, so I don't blame her if she's got, like, immune problems or something. There's beauty to be found in every experience. So this person is also outside, surrounded by creation. Yeah. Oops. Oh, and we have Pyrite Gengar, and I think they're called, Lucky Cats, Manekineko, holding up cards when the glare would be on them. Where would I be without my assistants? For this one, I think this is the Mary L. This one has a more advanced system, I believe, and I haven't really started studying this one, unfortunately, but Here we have similar imagery again. She's outdoors. She actually has a child, so it's bringing in that motherhood element. She also has a rose on this necklace here, so you know, maybe it's referencing like love or beauty. And she's got an abundance of apples here that she is collecting, so it's kind of similar to the wheat in the foreground of the usual imagery. And this, I think, is generally a Thoth deck, but the Empress looked pretty similar, so I'm just going to go ahead and include it here. This is the Urban Tarot. And so here we have, this person is indoors, actually. She does have the stars above her head, so she's got that pulling in. She is wearing a dress and looking beautiful, and she does have a baby, so it's tying in that motherhood aspect. We do have, we can see outside, we can see some of the outdoor plants, so, you know, and she's got like a golden light coming down over her. So even indoors with the stars and the directed light, I do think this is kind of allowing you to bring in that regal goddess energy to this card as well, even though it does show a domestic scene. I forgot to talk about this one. I'm already messing up the first batch, so this is me on another day, but let's look at this one real quick. It's the Ferenc Pinter Tarot. This is, you know, we have a woman in a very fine, elegant dress with some sort of headpiece. Maybe, you know, she looks to be up in the clouds. And there's a sword here and a crown. A little bit of an airy photo rather than earthy, so that's a bit unusual with the elemental associations. But with the crown and the scepter here, it does still give a very royal impression. I would still recognize it as the Empress. And here we have maybe a world with a cross on it, a little bit. Not entirely sure what that is, actually. Okay. All right. So we've made it through the first batch. Let me go ahead and switch them out to the next batch. All right, here's the next batch that we'll be going over here. Just getting a good shot for the chapter header. Okay, let's go through this next bit here. This is from the Pulp Tarot, and it's basically pinup style, old magazine cover style cards, and this we have a lot of the same information. It still says Major Arcana. We've got number 3. We've got the star crown over the head. She does look luxurious, looks like maybe some like silk pajamas or something like that. She's lounging, she's reclining, so you know that she's letting that creative flow go right through her. She even has the golden scepter right here, indicating like royalty, divinity, and she's seated in the middle of a wheat field here as well. And I love the peacock style of this chair. I've actually looked for those at thrift stores or estate sales, but they're hard to find and they get scooped up really fast. So a little bit of a side note there, but you know, we've got the abundance from the wheat field, the elegance, you know, from her pose and reclining. I think we have a lot of the usual elements here. Alright, this is the Mystic Dreaming Tarot, maybe, or I could be wrong, I don't know. This is a photo collage set, not my favorite style, so I don't have a ton like this, but this is a good reader, so I'll give it that. This one we actually have a moon setting, which I think is interesting because I really think of the High Priestess as a moon-based card and the Empress as a sunny daytime one, so this is a bit of a reversal there, but we actually have her sitting in a throne. She's got the scepter and the crown, so we do still have that regal divinity, you know, goddess energy here. She's holding a few bits of wheat there, if you can see them in her hand, and she is surrounded by you know, flowers and nature and the like. In the background here, we actually have what looks like a castle, a little spooky, and there's a waterfall coming through it. So we do still have the water element in this card as well. The Darkwood Tarot is a bit more stripped down. So we do have a woman reclining. I really like when they include that. And there she does have, you know, the pregnant like baby bump. So I think that's how they're pulling in creativity, since the surroundings are very bare. There is also the heart kind of shaped into the tree here, and we've got the Venus symbol there. I do think that my readings could be a little bit different on this one because the surroundings aren't as lush. So, you know, maybe I would be tempted to read this as more likely to be about motherhood or pregnancy. Or maybe I would think, oh, maybe I'm being creative in one area of my life, but other areas are barren or not producing right now. Yeah, so I do think that's an interesting change up that could change your readings a bit. This is from the Mystic Manga Tarot. I really like this one. It's a good reader. The guidebook, I think, is by Barbara Moore. And this one here, we've actually got the 2 pillars in the back, which I think is interesting because I associate that with the High Priestess, but we do have daylight this time. We've got the golden scepter, we've got a crown. She is reclining, so I like that they've included that. She's got pearls. She looks very luxurious. They're definitely pulling in that aspect. She maybe even looks a bit, she's a very like focused or very direct look. She looks a little less maybe casual than some others, so that might affect your readings, maybe a bit more of a go-getter Empress, but still reclined enough to allow for that creative flow. This is from the Star Seeker Tarot. Star, you know what? It's got star in it. I forget it every single time. I'll include it in the description box. But this one does have the star crown. They're placed in her hair, which I think is a really fun touch. It's also got the wheat for abundance. She's dressed very elegantly, like royalty. She's even got a cape on, which I think is beautiful. And you can see the heart is kind of, I think it's incorporated in this necklace here, which I think is a fun way to do that as well. I believe this is Tarot of the Witch's Garden, and again we have someone reclining here, very like heavily pregnant, so we've got that motherhood aspect coming in as well as creation, and plus, you know, she's got this, instead of the wheat, she has this scythe, which I think serves the same purpose. That's what you would use to harvest with, and she's got this bowl of various fruits and everything else. And oh, and there's the image of the wheat itself right there on the book too. And her golden scepter here has the pomegranate at the top. And I like all of her luxurious like pillows and blankets and this fur, and she's reclining there as well. And we've even got a fancy pitcher and bowl for water over there. Which, now that I think of it, there isn't really a water element in the background, so I think that might be pulling it in. I don't know about you, and I might not even be accurate about this, but this does make me think of like the old-timey wash basins. So I do think of, you know, the water moving as it's poured out to cleanse. And then she's got the crown of stars as well. So I really like this one. I feel like they've incorporated a lot of the usual elements. Oh, and they've got the hearts there and the symbol of Venus. So I think that's very cool. I think I just had a little bit of fun there hunting around for the little symbols. I like this sort of detailed card. I think it's very beautiful as well. This one here is Gilded Tarot Royale, maybe. I don't know. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the comments. But yeah, so here we have a very regal looking person. She's wearing, you know, what I could imagine an empress wearing. She's holding a giant symbol of Venus. And she's kind of elevated almost up in the sky or at the top of the mountains. She's kind of larger than life. So I really feel like this one is pulling in kind of divine or goddess energy as well. Plus she has this like a crown of stars there. And she's even got the actual zodiac signs written around her in kind of a halo formation. So I really feel like that's pulling that in. We have down here, she's surrounded, or she's standing above all of creation in a way. So I think that's being pulled in as well, especially by the rabbit here, which is generally a symbol of fertility. So I think that is very beautiful. This is the Druidcraft Tarot. I think it does incorporate more Druidic or Celtic imagery, which I'm a bit less familiar with, but I do see a lot of familiar elements as well. So it looks like we do have the wheat in one arm here, and then she's got basically what looks like a cornucopia of flowers and fruits, and even that cornucopia shape just definitely a symbol of abundance in general, right? We've got the flowing water to show creativity, flowing along unimpeded, and I think these spirals, you know, something continuing unimpeded, that's what that makes me think of. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate. I'm trying to see what's on her dress. It looks like it might be little bees, which could add a sense of sweetness, of productivity, you know, being active and moving towards your goals. And I'm not sure what this little statuette is down here. Is it like a fertility statue or is it a frog? I really, I won't lie, I can't tell. Anyway, they call this card the Lady, but it's a stand-in for the Empress as well. And I think the last one from this group, we have the Pastoral Tarot. Now, I don't know why, maybe I'd have to think about it a little longer, but I do find myself inclined to call this the Nine of Pentacles. It just confuses me a little bit more, but I do see where they were going with it for the Empress. It's just, I don't know, being in an indoor garden maybe is making me struggle more. So she's surrounded by creation again. We've got some butterflies as well as flowers and trees. And she does have a whole field of wheat in the back, which is a traditional, you know, Empress symbol here. We do have a little heart on the basket as well. And I think that might be all. She's got a flower crown. And she could be pregnant, but I really wouldn't be able to tell from this image. So I would probably struggle with this. Oh, we do have water as well in the bird bath. So I would struggle with this card without that title a little bit, honestly. All right, let's switch to the next batch. Okay. I feel refreshed after the tea and cookie. All right. This one is not actually from a tarot deck, but I have an oracle called Secrets of the Ancestors, and what it is, I mean, honestly, it just seems like a reimagining of the majors and the core cards. So I just included it as well because I think this is also a wonderful representation of the Empress. The little tagline on here says nurture the harvest, which really ties in with Empress concepts. I think this is just a stunning illustration. I actually wonder if this is maybe like a granddaughter or something. So I like the even better age representation here. And, you know, still involves like mothering and nurturing, even if she wasn't pregnant. She's got the stars here, and I love the placement of her hand on this town building because I really feel like she is in charge, and I mean with the matriarch, that is the person who's in charge. She's got like the royal purple on, the beautiful beaded collar here. I just feel like it's very royal, very regal. She's also got all of these gold rings on and bracelets and things like that. I feel like this gives the same sense. And we've almost got, it might be a different plant, but we've almost got what looks kind of like wheat off to the side here. So I just feel like this is a really beautiful card. This is a Thoth deck. I think it's called Heaven and Earth Tarot. But again, the Empress is lining up very nicely. And the deck tends to use RWS imagery anyway to create a nice, easy crossover from one to the next. We've got the Venus symbol up at the top. Got like little flower symbols there, and then maybe some sort of knot. Some like knot work right here. I don't know about that. We've got a scepter and a crown for royalty. We've got some luxurious furs here as well. We even have an instrument. I think we will see more of those, just literally as a representation of creativity in the arts. We have water rushing down in the background here, as we would expect, and something that does look kind of like wheat at the front for abundance. So yeah, I like this very much. We've got another Venus symbol here. She's got pearls on as well, just very luxurious and royal. A little young. This deck does tend to like to make everyone young and beautiful. I believe we have a Hebrew letter there, so I'm less familiar with that stuff, but we do have the Venus symbol again. Is this Taurus for Earth? Maybe? What's this one? Oh, is it Libra? I was supposed to be learning the planetary and zodiac symbols, but I realized I didn't. My bad. But I've embarrassed myself as usual. We'll move on. And this is from the Hedgewitch Tarot. I just picked this up the other day. Very beautiful. I love the detail in these cards. Look at that. Stunning. Let's see. Just trying to figure out where the bubbles come from, but I think it's just water. I wonder if the Empress is controlling the water as it moves around. That's kind of cool. But anyways, we do have a beautifully dressed woman. She's got a beautiful, extravagant robe on with a lot of jeweled adornment. And she has a really elaborate crown on it as well, which has flowers on it, moons and stars, very celestial. And she is holding a baby, and there's actually a bunch of children here. So it really shows that maternal, and she might even be pregnant as well, but it shows that like maternal or nurturing aspect to this card. And I want to say these almost look like peonies, don't they kind of? I don't know. We've got the two trees, which is interesting. They do remind me more of the columns in the High Priestess, so I mean that's an interesting choice, but otherwise I do think this is a very Empress coded card, you know, just very much. It really does say abundance. I feel like having a really curvy Empress is great for abundance as well, honestly. And then we've got this, you know, this pool of, looks like a magical pool of water, honestly, and this fish here as well. So I think it's a very beautiful card. I'm just looking around to make sure I didn't miss any little symbols or anything like that. And this is a more you know, the background's not as detailed, but still they've included a lot of the symbols here as well. So we've got wheat and also the scythe to harvest it. And if you look at the little tattoos, it says art for probably the creativity. And we've got the little element symbol here as well. And this person I'm thinking maybe this might be like a trans woman possibly. So I love this deck. It's the fifth Fifth Spirit Tarot. We've still got the Star Crown for that celestial element, and we've got the symbol of Venus for femininity, and the heart right there on the other hand's tattoos. We've got pomegranate for fertility and creativity as well. And the Monstera might just be for decoration. I don't know that it's just a popular indoor plant right now. I'll just keep going right around. This is from the Tarot of Haunted House. So again, we've got an indoor scene here instead. This person isn't really reclining, but they do look fairly effortless. They don't look like they're straining to create this light that she's controlling in her hand. She does have stars around her bracelet here, even though she doesn't have a crown. I think her pose is very regal, so they're trying to bring in that element that way. We do still have flowers, and she's surrounded by luxury in this room, so I think they're trying to pull in a lot of those elements in a way that they can within a haunted house. So, and she's also touching her stomach. So that I think that could maybe be a nod to the potential of pregnancy. Continue along here. This is the duck feet. This is like a fairy tale tarot, woodland tale tarot or something like that. So I don't think these reflect specific fairy tales. It just goes for like a fairy tale vibe. And for this one, I think I would have a little bit of difficulty reading this as the Empress. One, I'm very distracted by where she's sitting. Is she on a counter? I'm struggling. I'm struggling with the perspective here. She is surrounded by flowers, but that's kind of it in terms of creation. It does look cozy. She's got the tea. Certainly like a self-care element to this card. There are little hearts. I think. Either that or they're little bugs. I don't actually know. They might be bugs. We've got the pots and pans up there. And she does look comfortable and relaxed like I would expect from the Empress, but she's not dressed up very fancily, and also looks very young. So, I think I would struggle identifying this as the Empress without the label on it. I will grab the guidebook to see if I can give this one more of a fair shot. Yeah, it's the Woodland Fairy Tale Tarot. Let's do Empress. Oh, it is actually an actual tale. So it's supposed to be specifically a reference to a. I think I am. Oh. Well, okay. Well, I would have to probably study that a bit. I think they're saying this is the protagonist of the tale, and the elderberry bush is the Empress. You know what? I'm struggling with that one, but you can pause on this one if you like. They got the right keywords, but I'm struggling with that. Anyways, this is from the B Tarot, which is my daily reader for this month, and we've got a really stunning card. We don't have a lot of the usual symbols that I'm kind of looking for, but I don't think I would have trouble recognizing this as the Empress. When it's a close-up like this, it really does give like goddess energy from this. So I think I would pretty easily read this as Empress. We've got even like, it looks like the queen bee on her hands. I think that's a really nice touch. And then she does have, she's got a crown on and she's surrounded by flowers. I think I would still easily read this as Empress, even though it's a little different image-wise. And I would be tempted to read it more in like a goddess way, not quite so down to earth. This is from the Slavic Legends Tarot. It's one of the two indie decks I have I just, you know, I'm sure you could guess my aesthetic by now, but yeah, plants everywhere and florals. I'm a big fan of that. Again, I've almost got this flower that looks kind of like a peony to me. You know, I don't know. Then we've got, sorry, I'm just looking over all the details on here. I do think this person looks very luxurious. I know she's kind of naked, but you know, this looks like beautiful and well done. The shawl. And then she's got this huge crown of antlers and like a flower crown as well. And this might seem silly, but even though she looks naked, her makeup looks really done. So even though she's not very dressed, I still see her as a very like royal, important figure who's well put together. And then we've even got a glowing light around what looks like a pregnant belly. So I'm very much getting this like woodland spirit goddess energy of creativity. So quite lovely. And it almost looks as though the flowers and ferns are springing from her and not just clothing her. So I do think creativity is indicated by that as well, like the flow of creation. This is from the Shadowscapes Tarot. I just got this the other day and I'm already obsessed with it. I think it is so beautiful. I think this Empress card is also extremely beautiful. It's got, maybe it looks like roses at the bottom there on a vine branch, and then a very celestial goddessy looking being, maybe a dryad, because it looks like her fingers are almost turning into branches as well. But yeah, she's draped in very luxurious fabrics, and she does have these wings here, so she might be like a fairy as well. She's got the heart symbol in a charm on her waist belt, and she's got a wreath. It's not a laurel wreath, but she's like holding one, maybe like a flower crown right there. And it does look like she has some sort of halo or crowning feature on her head. Maybe those are like feathers or something like that. And she is reaching towards the sun, and looks like the fruits and plants and flowers and these butterflies, it looks like they are coming from her. So I really do read creation and creativity and beauty from this card. And she does look very like sensual and beautiful. So, you know, I think this definitely reads a very like card of like feminine charm as well. So very lovely. All right, we did it. Another batch down. More overview look at this, so you can pause if you would like. Let's just go around in order again. This is the Da Vinci Tarot. It's a very unusual one, and it uses his sketches, not necessarily completed art things, like sketches, designs, that sort of thing. This one actually matches up fairly well. Like some of them are just, they are wild and out there, you know. But this does look like a woman of the right age, a mature woman, who is gazing lovingly at someone, maybe a child, and does have a caring expression. So, you know, I could actually match this one with Empress, which is more than I can say for some of the other cards in that deck. So I'm going to call that a win. I am going to grab the guidebook because the reason I haven't given up on that deck completely is the guidebook. Yeah, see, this is why I keep this deck. I love this guidebook. So one thing I don't think that we've talked about at all is where can you guide others with love and kindness in this matter. I do think that the Empress is, you know, just the Empress goddess energy, even like mother energy. She is in a position of authority. She can guide others. You know, I don't think we really mentioned that. I did enjoy reading about Leonardo's daddy issues. So, you know, maybe pause if you're curious for that historical tea. And then I really liked, you know, letting things flow through you, right? Giving time for things to find their natural level of growth. fostering development and then reaping the harvest. You know, we've seen several already where they have that scythe. You know, you have the gift to create beauty and to reassure the anxious. And then I liked this with the reversal as well. Self-love or self-indulgent sensuality disempowers you and blights your relationship for others. Do not destroy what you love. I find that a very interesting approach to the reversed Empress. So if you go too much into that sensuality, or, you know, really leaning into the senses and the physical body, you know, maybe you can go a little too far, right? So yeah, and I like how they've got upright, reversed, and disconnected. So this is a phenomenal guidebook, frankly. I think it's just got like little gems that, you know, sometimes really strike me just right. So I think it's worth it, even though sometimes I look at the cards and I'm like, okay, if you say so. If you say so. But yeah. This is a playing card deck that's also an illustrated tarot. It's literally called Illustrated Playing Cards. This, I think, was a bit of a cop-out, as the illustration doesn't necessarily say Empress. We do have a heart here. We do have, you know, flowers, creation, abundance there. We do have the laurel wreath for victory. Sorry, it's laurel wreath for victory. You know, and this is also the Queen of Hearts card, so it only has the number of cards of a playing deck. Oh, and look, there's the Venus symbol. So they did superimpose the majors on certain minor cards. I kind of picture the Empress going along with the Nine of Pentacles. So I don't know if that's a correct correspondence, but I was a little confused when they put the Empress on the Queen of Cups, right? I thought, I mean, I guess that could work. You know, they're mothering, nurturing, those aspects line up. So I guess that could work. It just, you know, I was surprised. Doobie-doo. All right. So this one's pretty unique. We've got an Empress from the Adventure Tarot. Pretty backs. And I think this one is interesting. We've got the stars in the form of barrettes in her hair. She does look like a mature woman, which I appreciate. We've got the water feature in the back, the waterfall coming down from the mountain, the flow of creativity. And then, you know, she's coincidentally standing right in front of that flow and drinking. So, you know, I think that is kind of indicating like letting that creativity flow through you. Other than that, I don't have, you know, I don't pull as much from this card, other than maybe getting out in nature, connecting with your physical body, maybe, you know, just by doing physical activities. So I struggle with this one a little bit more, but I do think it's lovely. This is from the Tarot of the 78 Doors. And this is one where I think the costuming choices are a little goofy looking. But we have a doorway here. They like to use liminal spaces in this deck. And we do have someone who's royally, beautifully dressed. Doesn't really have a crown, though. Is showing like a nurturing, motherly instinct, you know, speaking, interacting with these two children here. Thinks that she is inviting them in. Maybe you could see that as inviting them into creation. Not fully certain on that one. But we do have flowers in nature, and they are outdoors. Okay. So this one here is a fairy tale deck, Tarot of the Divine, that focuses on like international fairy tales. We've got, it looks like roses to me on here, and then we do have someone who looks very divine because of the halo in place of a crown. So I do get this like goddess, motherly, nurturing creative energy from this card. I'll glance at it to see what tale this is from in case you're curious. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oop. Oh. Come on now. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I thought that looked like some sort of Christian iconography, and I guess that's right. It's Our Lady of Guadalupe is the tale that it is after. Oh, that's very cool. So it says, a hill that was normally barren, bursting with Castilian roses, native to Spain and not Mexico. The woman helped him gather the roses in his cloak. Wow, that is really beautiful. I did not know that about that story. Creating something from nothing. I think that definitely fits in. Here. All right, so we've got the Tarot of Mystical Moments. I do really love this deck. And it is sort of like a collage-y type deck. We've got a very regal looking woman. She is holding a crown. It's a little weird because she's almost holding it over the baby's head instead of her own, which I think is interesting. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that could change up her reading a little bit. I'm not entirely sure how. I'd have to think on that one a little bit more, where she's raising the royal and not claiming it for herself or something like that. Like, I don't know. But obviously these flowers, this child, all these beautiful blooms are springing directly from her dress as well. And so I think that really does have the same, effect of, creation and birth and royalty as the usual Empress card. All right, so this is from the Black Tarot, which is a very beautiful deck. We definitely have like the waterfall element. She's actually standing in the water, which is a little unusual because it's more of like an earth card. And also I also think of it as a sunny card, but instead we've got the moon phases surrounding her. She does have a crown on and is wearing like beautiful jewelry. So she does look regal, elegant, and celestial with the moon and like almost the rays coming out of the crown there as well. So, I mean, I do get like goddess energy from this card. This, I believe, is from the John Bauer Tarot, which I think is maybe an artist's tarot, and they've just picked works to apply to tarot cards rather than the other way around. And I love this art style. So this, again, it looks like we have a nighttime scene, which is quite different. She is wearing a laurel wreath, which could suggest victory. And she is kind of rested, relaxing. Birds are coming to her. She's not forcing anything. Seems to be letting the energy flow through her. It doesn't necessarily suggest, regal. There are some like spirals here, which I feel like are kind of a Celtic druidic symbol a lot, but maybe he just used it as a texture for this image. And there is a water source at the very bottom there, so it's just a little more bare bones, symbology wise than some other cards. And this one seems pretty straightforward as well. It's from the Lumina. I can't remember. I do not recall. But this one, even though it's a little light on imagery, I feel like it really expresses the concept very well. So you've got all these flowing brush strokes, going around, and that really does feel like just the flow of creative energy. And she's actually clothed in leaves, which are trailing off of her, almost like they're coming out of her hands or her body as well. So I do feel like she is, creating these things. and she's got the stars and is really looking up towards the cosmos as well. So, you know, it's a light imagery card, but I do feel like it does really express creativity and creation and just being in the right mindset to let things flow. This one I should probably glance at the guidebook for, but you know what? I don't think I will. This is the Motherpeace Tarot, and my only insight is this person makes me think of Fran Drescher. Do you know what I'm talking about from, like, what was that show called, The Nanny, where she was always really well dressed? She had, like, you know, big, beautiful styled hair. She was really pretty. We've got this mirror here, this rose. I think she's a great Empress figure. Beautiful, sensual, mothering, but like in charge. Even if she wasn't in charge, like technically, she was in charge. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts that are probably fully irrelevant to this card. Look, there's like a goddess figure statue, so there's that. And then I don't know. Y'all have to look into that on your own. All I can think of is Fran Drescher. All right, another section down. Whew, okay, yeah, I'll be honest, you won't notice, but I went away. I laid down horizontally, like 10 minutes. The candle has burnt down more. I have gotten another cup of tea, large mug of tea. This is actually pomegranate black tea. You see what I did there? And eat the rest of the snack cookie. So yeah, I'm revitalized and ready for the second half. We're getting into the part where I think there are more like interesting, intriguing, a little bit more difficult to read cards. So I did refer to the guidebooks for these. So hopefully I'll go through them smoothly and be able to say a little something about each. So let's do the vertical shot so you can see them all together, and so I can get a little chapter heading. Let's start up here. So this one is a very unusual one. We've got the Horror Tarot, which overall is supposed to be more of a grim dark based on horror movie scenes type dealio. So this, we have very different scenery. We actually have someone looking like they are in pain, like a body horror moment. We've almost got like alien tentacles coming out of the person's body. Maybe there's a parasite of some sort. So the reading that you're going to get from this is very different. There might be technically creation coming from the Empress's body, but it is maybe not a positive thing. Maybe something has gone sour in the creative process, and the surrounding area is looking kind of barren. So, you know, I think overall this is probably, even when it's upright, it's probably going to be more of a reversal type negative card. Now, this one I was kind of struggling with at first. I didn't quite get what was going on here because I was trying to figure out like what the organs are. I was like, okay, we've got lung, we've got heart, we've got a femur bone here. Like, what do I pull from this? But then when I looked at the guidebook, it became it became a little bit more clear when it's considered in comparison to the High Priestess, because you see what we've got here. The High Priestess is a skull, and the floral is coming out of the skull, so it's more of about the mind. And then this is about rooting yourself in your environment, in your body, and the greenery springing from there. So I think in comparison that made it a little bit easier to read for me. I don't know, I wasn't considering it correctly at first. All right, this one is from the Deviant Moon Tarot. The art method, I think, was pretty complex. It involves like photos and photoshopping, and then using the textures and creating the images and things like that. So here we do have someone in like a royal purple cloak and does have look like an important nobility royal looking hat. And there is what looks to be in the place of a golden scepter. We've got like a flower scepter almost. And it's creepy, but the whole deck is creepy. So I don't think that's like the basis of it. And in the back, it almost does look like we have a pomegranate-esque type fruit. Probably again for fertility. And then a lot of the creatures are weird bodily. But we do have, you know, three breasts, you know, which does somewhat relate to motherhood, feeding children and the like. Let me look up the guidebook for this one. See if they got. The guidebook does also mention, which I didn't quite catch at first, but once I look at the card again, I do see kind of a hunched posture and maybe uncertainty on the facial expression. So I guess I could see that like, you know, uncertain about motherhood or creation in that way, right? This one is from the Magical Hours Tarot. This looks like a younger woman than is common for the Empress card, but everyone does need to be able to see themselves in the Empress card, even men. So I don't mind having different representations across the deck, or across the decks as well. And the interesting thing about this tarot is that they tend to assign the cards to a particular time of day, and they've chosen dawn as the time for the Empress, which I think is really fitting, especially once we go over this in-between tarot. I think that ties in really nicely. So I do think this works as a dawn card. She does have some fire there, but I think it's more of I still think it's more of an earth element card. She just has like a scepter, and then she's got the crown, as we do usually expect, and then just a huge amount of like blossoming flowers that seem to be coming from her body and then like trailing down to the ground and everything like that. So let's just continue this way. Okay, so this is the Ghost and Spirits Tarot. This is one that I think I would kind of struggle with. The wings really puts me in mind of Judgment or something like that. Like I would kind of struggle like this, and also this person looks penitent or subservient. It's not like the mother-child relationship, even if that is a child. Like it just doesn't, the way they've illustrated it, I think I would struggle with this one, honestly. So the theme of this deck is that they've chosen a spirit, a ghost, an entity to represent each card. And for this one, they chose like guardian spirits, maybe like guardian angels. So I understand why they've done it like this. And it does look that there's almost kind of like a crown of blooms up top up here. And then, you know, there are flowers and everything springing from the base of the guardian spirit. So, I mean, I can kind of get that, but I just, admittedly, just looking at the image without the label, I would struggle. I have to be honest about that one. This one's actually not too far off the course for the regular imagery. This is from the Crow Tarot, and it is more grimdark. It's a black and white deck, but we do still have the Crown of Stars, the regal bearing. It looks like she might be sitting in a throne. She's got the shield with the Venus symbol, which is common for the RWS, and then maybe a crow or a raven for like wisdom. I just kind of see them as symbols for that in general, and it's the Crow Tarot, so you need one. This one, I love this card. I love this art and this image. I think it is so beautiful, and I think the creators would agree with me, because it was also the art that was on the deck, or not on the deck, on the box for the deck. I don't know. I just think it's so beautiful. I think her expression is so beautiful. This also does look like a younger Empress, but it's a vampire-based deck. It's the Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels. And I just think, I don't know, like, I know it's just a tarot card, but it's very Mona Lisa to me. Like, I just think her expression is so enigmatic, and I really, really like it. So she does look royal. She's got the ruffled collar there and the fancy dress, almost like a portrait that an old-timey portrait that you would see. We've got apples and bees at the top. I think the apples are abundance and fertility as well. And then there's a bee as well. And I'm going to pull out that guidebook and say exactly what Ian Daniels had for that sort of imagery. And there's that pink rose as well. And you can see the Venus symbol right on the necklace too. I love the layered necklace look there. There's also that big green and gold heart too, which I think is quite lovely. So I just think this is a very, very beautiful card. I like it. I like it quite a bit. And of course, the guidebook is a treasure. It's a chunker. Yeah, so this is just a wonderful guidebook. And, you know, he doesn't necessarily give anything different here. Emotions, harmony, luxury, good fortune and success, elegance, Mother Nature, harmonizing with the natural rhythms. So, you know, I really like that very much. Spiritual love made physically manifest through devotion and tender fostering. Yeah, I think that's a cool way to think about it as well. You might think spiritually or conceptually that of your love for others, and then the Empress is the one that shows it or lets that channel through her, right? And then here he talks about the symbology in the card that he's made. The pink rose is for Venus and receptive love, nature and the beauty of love, the apple tree, the fullness and fertility of life, yep. And then you know, the bee, and this is something I didn't actually know. The bee is a reference to traditional tarot imagery denoting ardor and virtue and a connection to honey as the richness and pleasure of the senses. Well, that is very cool. I did not know that. I don't even think my bee tarot guidebook mentioned that, which is kind of funny. So I think I'll have to make note of that, because I think we've seen a bee maybe twice in the other decks so far. And of course the bee also shows up here in the Hush Tarot, so I would apply that meaning here as well. And then the Hush Tarot doesn't always use a lot of the same symbology I would see, otherwise it's a very, very unique deck. So on this one we do have a crow or raven on the head. I think that's showing, you know, wisdom and insight, and or maybe even the process of building and connecting with the body. They've got the crow on the head, and then it looks like she's carrying feathers, maybe, and it looks almost like she's a doll-like figure. You've got like the joints that you would see from a doll, so, or, you know, maybe this bee is helping stitch something up. So, you know, if you don't have a body to connect to the world, make one. I'm not entirely sure. This is a difficult deck, that's for sure, but very beautiful. And then let's go over the InBetween Tarot. I have really enjoyed this deck. I haven't played with it much. I just got it the other day, and I have been really impressed with it. I think it is definitely worthwhile and could have a lot to teach. So the concept of the deck is that it actually combines the card before and after, or not before and after, but it combines it with another card. So for the Empress, we don't have an Empress card. We have a High Priestess mixed with the Empress, and then the Empress mixed with the Emperor. And I think the results are so neat. And honestly, this deck reads like something wholly original. Like, it uses RWS concepts, but I feel like the readings you get would be very, very different, which is cool. It's like you get a whole nother system without having, you know, based on things that you already know, right? Because it's using the RWS like information. So here for the High Priestess one, I love, and this is why I think the Dawn choice for that Magical Hours tarot up in the corner there was such a good one, because you know, in this card here, you do absolutely have going from night to day, which is going to be dawn for the Empress, right? So I think that was a good choice. And here you've got the creation, essentially, of, you know, your spiritual, your conceptual, you know, ideas and mentality with actually bringing it to fruition in the Empress. And it's everything coming together at once. And I think that's a really cool way to visualize that. And then this one as well, it's the Empress combined with the Emperor. And I think this one is really neat as well, because it's showing that you're not fully complete without both sides, right? The feminine and the masculine are complementary, and you wouldn't really be whole if you only had one part and not the other. So even when you see the children here, which can play normally into the Empress, like, you know, motherhood, nurturing, that sort of thing, you've got, you know, what stereotypically would look like a male child over here by the Empress's side. And then it's stereotypically looking female child over here by the Emperor's side. So, you know, you can display masculine traits, or what people might associate with the masculine, if you're a woman. And you can also display feminine, you know, creative, nurturing, caring traits, even if you identify as a man. So, you know, I like that. They're on even ground. They're meeting each other on an even playing field. It's not saying that one is better or more powerful than the other one. You know, they're both interacting with Venus and the feminine. We've got the little Emperor symbol down here in the ram. Yeah, so I really like this deck. I think it's very cool and a really neat addition to my collection for sure. I was happy I picked it up. I'd been overlooking it for a long time. And then we do have swans up here. So I was wondering, again, I feel like roses and swans are things that tend to be associated with the Empress, even if they're maybe not always or in the older traditional images. So yeah, very neat. And then this one here, we've got the, got the Nicoletta Ceccoli tarot, and this one always has like childlike, doll-like images for the deck. So it's very different from the regular imagery. Here we have someone who still has a crown, is wearing a beautiful dress, so still looks elegant, royal, looks relaxed and contemplative. This isn't a person who's straining or working hard. She's letting things flow through her. And she is examining these little bugs. The facial expression is a bit blank. I think that's really common for that deck. I think it leads to some interesting readings, but I do think that you can see this as interest and caring for these little bugs. They don't seem scared. They're not running off. They actually seem like they're coming to visit her, which I suppose on your reading could be, depending on your reading, could be a good or a bad thing, but I don't, you know, I do think you can get a standard Empress reading from here. Although creation, I don't necessarily get creation just looking at this. So I would probably struggle with that. Maybe nurture, care, or lack of, you know, if I don't like bugs, I might be inclined to read it as the things you're caring for are not good. Look, you could go a lot of ways, but all right, success. I think we have completed this batch here. Let's go on to the next. If you want a second to look at them all together. All right, I'm gonna go straight to my favorite. This is the Kawaii tarot, and by Lulu Mayo, and I just think this is such a clever little tarot. So it's with animals and like cutesy figures, but it really does stick pretty straightforwardly to the original imagery. So here we have a poodle, but she is reclining on, or like seated casually on, a fancy looking chair in the outdoors. There's the golden scepter and the crown, the pomegranates and the tree in the back, and also on the pattern on her little ruffled coat there. We've got the adorable bunny holding the heart-shaped shield with the Venus symbol on it. And we've got all this creation. We've got this is probably the wheat, and then we've got flowers and the water source coming from the back. So they've really added everything in here. And I would also mention that a poodle is, the haircut is considered frou-frou and fancy, but it is a working dog, and the cut is functional for, you know, what they accomplish. So I kind of like that being at play for this. You know, sure, this is, you know, it could be seen as like a luxurious frou-frou fancy dog, but, you know, very capable of completing the work as well. Not to get too serious about about poodles, but okay, so we've got the Crow Tarot, which of course is going to be based on crows and have that in all the imagery. We've got the water source there. We have the sun. I do think of this as a very sunny daytime card. We've got the heart imagery for Venus that we're used to seeing, and, well, we've got a cup. I'm not sure about the cup, but we've got all of creation below the crow. We've got the plants, we've got, those might be pomegranates as well for fertility. So relying heavily on the imagery there. This is actually from an Oracle deck. It's the Cosma Vision. It's, yeah, it's an Oracle, but I feel like it's a tarot. They've replaced some of the majors, but I figured I would just show the somewhat associated one. I feel like this really is colorful and related to creativity and royalty with the peacock, which is a very fancy bird. And we've also got, you know, moving through the doorway into a new era of creation. You can see all the colors, and the on this side we've got the straight lines, and then over here it's just bursting into different forms over there. So this is the Curious Creatures Tarot. Not my style, but I do have it. Let's see here. We've got pomegranates. We've got a mother with children. Is this a peahen? Maybe? Fancy peacock. With her children. So we've got the motherhood. She's sitting in the chair looking all elegant and fancy. So, you know, we've got some of the same elements there. This is the Sacred Web Tarot, which is another animal deck. And see, this one confuses me because when I see the horns, I want to say Emperor. I see the pink rose, which could be for Venus, just like the Tarot of Vampyres, and I mean the sun. But I don't know that this is my favorite from that deck. I'll grab the guidebook just in case to give it a fair shake. Yeah, no, it says this is a cow, which, I mean, I guess I think of it as bull, which is the same species. You know what? Make of that one what you will. I'm going to pass on that one. Okay. This is the Animal Guides Tarot. We've got a lot of the usual imagery here. Got the wheat, the heart with the Venus symbol on it. And the animal they've chosen is Angora rabbit. And I believe the reasoning behind this was, one, probably for fertility. I think any rabbit is a sign of fertility. And then as a comparison to the High Priestess, where, you know, you're more working in the mind. Now we've got a quick moving animal that's ready to hop into action, as the description says. So the time for thinking is over. It's the time to get to it, or get in the headspace for creating and moving on. And this is the Linestrider tarot. Not technically an animal tarot, but I think there's pretty much always an animal included. I'm actually not sure what that little creature on her shoulder is, but we do have the tiger here, and she does have the crown, the stars above the crown. So we've got that imagery. We have the one bared breast, both for sensuality and for motherhood, for breastfeeding, that sort of thing. So we've got both of those elements being brought out. I read the guidebook and it said this tiger, it's kind of snarling, maybe getting protective over this little monkey creature thing that's showing up, being a bit possessive, and that was more of a warning of what to watch out for, you know, not letting someone show up and being possessive or dimming your light, or, you know, stopping you from getting into your flow. So a bit of a twist on that one for sure. Okay, if you want to look at all these together. Oh, okay, I see this one says rose. So clearly, if I wanted to understand some of the imagery in the earlier cards, I should have stayed there. So if you stayed this long, look at you. We'll probably get to learn something from the guidebook here. Okay, I'm actually very proud of myself because for once I kind of know this one off the top of my head. So hen of the woods is a very common mushroom. I actually see it a lot in hiking videos. So people that are doing like the Appalachian Trail or the really long distance hiking, I see it in those a lot. It's common, it's good to eat, it's nourishing, and it's called hen of the woods because you'll have like a starter one and then it makes a ton of sprouts or babies. So it spreads quickly, it proliferates. I think this matches up very nicely with the creation, the motherhood tie-in of the Empress. So for once I am on top of the mushroom deck. Yeah, so here we have the Empress for the Wild Unknown, and in this image, again, we've got a nighttime scene, which does tend to throw me. It makes me think of the High Priestess, but this is the Empress, and they've just got a tree here. It provides shade, it provides shelter. You know, people live in close community with trees for resources and support and shade and all of that. So, and you know, fruit producing, it does create food for our nourishment. So I guess I could see it from that end, but I won't lie, I do struggle with this a bit. I could see creativity maybe like branching out from the trunk, the creation of, you know, the growth of something from a seed to a tree. So I could see it in that sense, but I would struggle a little. Okay, so for this one, for the Empress, the Herbcrafter's Tarot has chosen rose to represent that. So we've got some in a locket there, we've got some petals, we have some berries as well, and then a honeycomb in the shape of a berry. I suppose I would tie in the bee meanings as well that we talked about earlier with the from the Tarot of Vampyres guidebook as well. Quite lovely. And I like how the guidebook has phrased this one. So this is the guidebook here. And I'm just going to read this section here. Wild roses are prolific, creating food, medicine, and shelter for all who encounter them. As all parts of the rose contain medicine, every stage of your life finds passionate expression. Create, make, love, play. It's a fertile and generative time. I really like that quote. I think that's a very good interpretation of the Empress. To think very expansively about creation and how that can show up in your life. So this one is the Tarot of Landscapes. I like a lot of the cards in this deck. I would struggle with this one. I mean, I guess it's saying Mother Earth is creating and producing. I guess you could look at it this way. I think these might be pumpkins with the big leaves, and then I think these are like the pumpkins there. And then maybe this is like a field of wheat, but it doesn't look that tall compared to this deer, so that's why I'm kind of confused and think it might just be like grass. So I would struggle with this one. This is probably one where I would be going off my own understanding of the Empress card, or, you know, pulling a quote or something that seems appropriate from the guidebook. Ho ho ho, we finished up that one. I think we might be on the last batch. All right. This last group is always just a hodgepodge of decks that maybe have different systems, which generally means that I've not studied them. I always have great intentions, okay? And I think all of these are well-regarded decks, and one day I will get around to them. But I have so much fun with RWS, and that I just haven't needed to. I'm happy to know that there is more to learn in the world, and I look forward to doing it one day. So my descriptions of these may not really apply, but I'll show them to you and maybe say a little something here or there, okay? All right. These two are from the Gaia Tarot, the Dreams of Gaia Tarot, whatever it's called. And this has a different system from RWS, but I did notice that it has these two cards, the Maiden and the Mother, and I think a combination of that might be the Empress card in the RWS. It's got creativity over here and fertility in this one, so it's kind of separated out the concepts, but you can see a lot of similar things. We've got a flower crown, we've got a scepter there, maybe the tortoise for wisdom or something like that. And then over here you can see pink roses, which have been used as a symbol of Venus in some other decks that we saw today. A rabbit for fertility. And this is the Squid Cake Marseille Tarot, and I've never looked at Marseille at all. I think some of the concepts from Marseille are in the RWS, like some of them are similar. I really don't know because I've not looked into it much. I picked this up when I ran into it. I do see a person seated on a throne almost. She's got the shield and a scepter. So royalty, I don't really read anything. Maybe the Venus symbol, so there's femininity there. She's not dressed regally or anything like that, so I think I would just be going off what I know of Empress if I were reading this card, because I don't get much else from it. This is from the Osho Zen Tarot, which does also have a different system, but this card seemed to match up nicely. It's also number 3, and it says creativity as the keyword, which is very much Empress energy. And there's a woman in the card who also has the star crown, and there are lotuses and the moving water source as well. And you can see the green is creeping down her arm as if she's engaged in creating these earthly delights. So I think that works very nicely as an Empress card anyway. This one here. This deck I literally just got the other day. I found it at a store, which it seems weird because it's like a indie deck. The Ephemera by the author of The True Black, and I was very excited to find it and picked it up right away. This one also has a different system. I really don't know that there's an equivalent to the Empress. because the majors in that deck are replaced with archetypes that illustrate the hero's journey, like, you know, the writing concept of the hero's journey. And this one in the guidebook is mentioned as aligning with the Empress, or that's its major arcana counterpoint. I don't really get. I wouldn't read this in the same way as the Empress. I mean, it's called Fighter. It's more of an active card than a passive one. So I probably would not read it in the same way, right? But I'll show it to you anyway. Never say I kept something from you. This is the Aquarian Tarot. Everyone in this deck is dressed funky. I do like the art style though, which is why I got it. And it's mini. I had meant to do it as a travel deck, but I think is it Thothy? I really don't know. Anyways, there's wheat, there's the Venus symbol, the scepter, the crown of stars, dressed elegantly, royalty, a lot of the usual goods. This is the New Chapter Tarot, which again I think is Thoth-based. A beautiful watercolor deck. I love that this Empress seems a little bit older. She's holding the crescent moon, and she's got some wings there. Some sort of flower. I don't know if it's a rose. I'm unsure about that. But yeah, I will leave that to your discretion. And finally, this is the Tarot of the Spirit. Another one that I've picked up to study eventually. Just wanted to grab it while I saw it at a local store. I like to give them my money rather than ordering. So I see she's got a crown. Not quite of stars, maybe of flame. She's got an eagle up there. I see a Venus symbol. And it looks like maybe water coming from her feet. So maybe she's the source. But yeah, I think that deck has its own system and a really thick guidebook, so I think that's definitely goes even beyond the RWS type meanings. Okay, well, I am so pleased. We've actually completed this one pretty soon after I put out the last one. And if I stick with it and stay consistent, theoretically, maybe next month I will actually put out a card comparison video of my card of that month, in the month when it is my card. So we shall see. I think it's 9 of Cups. I have to look at my planner again to be sure. I think it's 9 of Cups. I think it's reversed though, so it's funny. We'll talk about all of the good things that won't come to me. Who knows? You know, we will hope for the best. Yeah, I think it was 9 of Cups, and then I pulled an oracle card that said frustration or something like that. So who knows how that'll work out for me, but I'll still consider it a good thing if we get the card comparison done. Thanks to my little helpers here. And actually, you know what? Maybe I should say what my favorite ones were. Like, which ones do I like the best? In the comments, if you had a favorite, let me know. Yeah, I think if I had to say favorites, I really like this one from Tarot of Vampyres. This one's probably my favorite. Like, I could just stare at this one. I like that one. I really like this from Witch's Garden. I just think it's beautiful. It incorporates all the symbols. I just think she's super beautiful. I thought this one was unique. It's not from a tarot, but I really like and enjoy this one. Like, I do really get an Empress feeling from this person. I just think this one's very beautiful, from the Slavic legends. I love the concept behind this one. This one I feel like makes me think, from the InBetween tarot, and I like that, about the balance between the masculine and the feminine. And then this one from Shadowscapes, I just think is beautiful, and really makes me think of creation and letting it flow through your body, and making things happen. So yes, anyways, I enjoyed that so much more than I thought I would. I actually feel like I have a new lease on the Empress card. I think I did used to reduce it to often I don't know why I didn't think of creativity as often. I would think of abundance and luxury, I think. I mostly thought of like motherhood and nurturing. As a very single person who probably would not have kids, that's just not up my alley. So I think I've really expanded my view of it today, and I hope this helped you all. If you had a favorite one, or if I got something wrong, or you know what some of the symbols mean and I was a little incorrect about it, feel free to mention in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So, all right, bye.